All right, so we're live.
We're
Hello,
live.
we are live. Hello, everyone. What's up, Tiffany? How are you?
Hi, Carl. How are you?
I am most excellent.
Welcome to
Um,
the ladies. Welcome, ladies.
yes.
Hi.
Today we have two very, very special guests. We actually have actual therapists on the show today. Real live therapists, unlike Tiffany and I, who are, I guess you would say, fake therapists.
I told you
Oh
I'm a hood
no.
therapist. I don't know what you're talking about.
You can consider
Uh,
yourself a very real consultant.
So let me introduce our guest. First off, she's a Haitian American mother of eight, an independently licensed clinical social worker, and the visionary founder of Serene Way Therapy and Wellness Center, with a virtual platform spanning across multiple states. Evelyn's Evelyn Center not only offers therapeutic support. Evelyn Center not only offers therapeutic support, but also provides virtual yoga. That sounds interesting. Support groups, physical training, and nutritional consultations. I like that. Serene Way embraces a holistic approach, working passionately to destigmatize and normalize discussions about mental health within the Black and Brown community. Committed to diversity and inclusion, the center proudly delivers services from people of color with a team of clinicians dedicated to making mental health accessible and relatable. Please welcome Evelyn Boursiquot. Did I say that correct?
Boursiquot, you are close.
Boursiquot. Evelyn
Welcome,
Boursiquot.
Evelyn.
Okay, for Evelyn Boursiquot.
Thank
Next up, we have I guess we can say this is our resident therapist, uh, the CEO of Mental Growth and Internal Healing. Uh, she's dedicated to providing the best services within our communities. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for Shenira Billups.
Woo! Thanks,
And Tiffany, our lovely. Oh, and for those of you looking for Kevin, Kevin is not feeling well today.
we miss
He
you,
said he
Kevin.
may or may not drop in, but he's not been feeling well for the last day or so. So he might sit out tonight's show, but he said he might pop in. We wish Kevin well, and hopefully he would join us later in the show. So let's kick it off with our hit song and our song that we have to make a video to some year.
Soon.
Some year. And then we're going to get right into it, folks.
With the knowledge you gain, break away from the chains. We helping you grow the Black Therapy Show. You in a safe space, dealing with the Black trauma. We unpacking and inspecting all our baggage and drama. Cause we gotta unite, no more killing each other. It's time to see a new future for my sisters and brothers. You know Kevin, Carl, and Tiffany, you'll have an epiphany. We'll give you everything you need to handle the enemy. We'll be giving you empathy, we're gonna challenge you mentally. The right conversation so you grow exponentially. We built your penitentiaries, we built all the schools. Gave us brainwash education, just making us fools. Hatred was what we got in exchange for love. No more manipulation from our God of thug. It's called Kevin and Tiffany. Now welcome to the Black Therapy Show. Let's go.
Let's go. Let's go. This is. Okay,
So I
this is.
recently came across a stat that was like, for every one Black woman who reports a rape, there are 15 who do not. And I hate to say that that statistic doesn't surprise me. And I don't think it should surprise you too. For, off the top of my head, two reasons. One, this isn't a safe society or system for survivors of sexual assault to report rapes and sexual assault happening to them. Immediately, no one believes them and we go to victim blaming. But two, specific to Black women, what do you expect Black women to do when we're constantly told that our body is a battleground? that we don't have autonomy over our bodies. From the moment that we were little girls, we're told, oh, you're fast for wearing little shorts, or you're fast for wearing that in the house near men that you should be trusting. Or when we're seeing footage from decades ago of Black women trying to have fun and feel sexy, but they're being chased in the streets, having their clothes ripped off from other Black men. Or we're hearing on podcast episodes and in other forms of media, people recounting stories, or whether they're made up or not, of them sexually assaulting a Black woman. What do you expect? What do you expect when that's what we're told we're good for? That our bodies are not our own, that we cannot give or revoke consent. So of course that statistic exists, as do the plenty of other ones when it comes to sexual assault against Black women. And I really want people to think about that statistic specifically, because every single time we talk about sexual assault or rape allegations, people will bring up, well, like, who were their victims? Who are their victims? Well, if you can see one, you can guarantee there probably are more. And if you know one Black woman who has been a victim of sexual assault or rape, you can statistically multiply that by 15 to get around the actual number of Black women you know who are survivors of that. And I want to end this off with, just because you don't report a sexual assault or a rape does not mean that you are not a survivor of sexual assault or rape. That experience did happen to you. That experience is valid. But there are resources to help you report. And there are resources to help you at least tell your story. To not be alone, to find groups of support, to find channels, platforms, resources to read, to watch, to listen to just remind yourself that you are not alone and you still have autonomy over your body. And that experience does not define you and never will define you. Have autonomy over your body.
Rape culture is heavy in the Black community.
In the hood, where I'm from, there was mad R. Kelly's in the hood, right? There was dudes that'll be 40 messing with a girl that I'm in high school with at the time, probably she's 16, 7th grade. So there's R. Kelly's in the hood, bro. Yeah. There's mad R. Kelly's in the projects in the hood. The whole difference between him is he was famous.
Yeah. Mega famous. Mega famous.
So from the beginning of the time, from being on the block, you'd be like, you know, a girl you be in school with, and she got a dude coming to pick up in the car. He might be 30, 40. You know what I mean? It's the same thing. You messing with an underage girl.
I'm talking from my point of view as a Black man dealing with sexual abuse, right? This is an introduction to me being sexually abused as a kid by my cousin. I had on these tight Spider-Man drawers, right? And people don't know how fucked up this could affect you, because to this day, I don't like Spider-Man. And that's why. Like, Spider-Man is now one of my favorite heroes just because of when that thing was happening with my cousin, I had on Spider-Man drawers. So whenever I think of Spider-Man, I think of that. When that thing was happening with my cousin.
If you are a man who was a victim of sexual assault as a child, I want to say that I'm sorry that happened to you, and I'm sorry that you live in a world that does not care about your feelings. I'm sorry that people don't take this serious enough. I'm sorry that people don't think this can happen to young boys, even though it happens every single day and nobody likes to talk about it. I'm sorry that you've had to self-medicate with drugs and alcohol and sex just to deal with the stress, the shame, and the guilt of having something like that happen to you. I'm really sorry. These kind of things happen to girls, but it happens to young boys as well. Protect all children.
Tiffany, you want to go ahead and yeah.
Yes, please. This is fair use purposes only, educational purposes only. We do not own the content to any of that is being shown. Hey, Kev, please make sure you like and subscribe. Also, we want to put in, it will be trigger warnings, okay? We will be talking about sexual assault, sexual behaviors, and what to look out for. Thank you very much.
Okay. Hey, Kev, thanks for joining.
Hey, thanks. What's up, everybody? How y'all doing?
Kevin, please.
Hey,
meet,
babes.
Evelyn.
Hello.
Evelyn?
Hi, how are you?
I'm hanging in. I'm good.
And you know our resident therapist, Shenira.
Shenira, good morning. Oh, good afternoon. Yes, good morning.
Good to see you. I'm glad you're looking like you're doing well.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm gonna get started, and I'm gonna, let Shenira and Evelyn, take it from there. But I just want to say the title of the show is "Why Sexual Assault Victims Remain Silent for So Long." That wasn't a dig at the victims. I just wanted people to know, because a lot of people say, "Well, why did you wait 10 years, or why did you wait 30 years?" So, Evelyn and Shenira would be able to explain that. And I would also like to say that um, I guess I was a kind of a victim of sexual assault while I was teenager at school. We had a music teacher who liked boys, and everybody in the school knew he liked boys, but it was kind of like a joke or not taken seriously. But this person tried so many times to kiss me on my mouth, so many times, and I mean, you try not to be in the same room with him. I mean, it was known throughout the school. Boys don't be in a
And
room.
nobody did anything.
No, they did. They just told us, "Oh, you guys are just making stuff up." You know what I mean? Nobody took it seriously. But this is a person that when I saw them, my heart used to beat so fast.
The anxiety.
My heart would just beat so fast. Nothing physical ever happened, but man, he tried. I can tell you.
That's a part of sexual assault.
But I never told my parents. I never told, you know what I mean? It was just a secret kept among the boys at that particular school, you know. But like I said, none of the adults at the school believed us. So I know if you're watching on YouTube or any other platform, you see there's a picture of P. Diddy and the friend that sued him, Cassie. The show is not about them, but it's more like people are asking why did it take her so long to go after him?
But it wasn't long. It was only 4 to 5 years.
Well, people are still saying
we're not talking about like 30, 40 years like the Bill Cosby. They coming out the grave. Yeah. This just happened for 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. So that wasn't long. I'm happy that she came out when she did.
Yeah,
allegedly.
One of the things we're going to touch on is why in the Black community, I think I read it, 20% of Black people, seek a therapist, whereas the white community and other communities is like 40-50% of people seek therapists. And I was mentioning to Shenira and Yvelande that I think it has to do with seeking therapy is a sign of weakness in our community. If what's wrong with you, toughen up, get over it, that kind of attitude we seem to have. But I'm gonna let Yvelande go first, since she's our newer guest on the show, and she can give me her insight as to why does it take victims so long, and why don't a lot of Black people seek therapy for sexual assault and other traumas.
Alrighty, hi guys. Thank you for having me. Thanks you, Tiffany and Kevin and Carl, for holding space like this because it's very much needed. My name is Yvelande, and I am the founder of Therapy and Wellness Center. And I think I could start with our mission. Part of your question. So the reason why I started Serene is so that we could have space. I hear echo. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think that's Kevin. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, just mute your phone.
So the reason why I started a Serene Way is to have a space where I start the conversation of destigmatizing and normalizing conversations in the Black community around mental health, around mental illness, around things that usually are stigmatized, and providing a space where Black people and brown people could come and be their authentic selves and be treated by other Black professionals, where they don't have to spend half of their time educating people on culture and lingo. And when they're talking about, oh, I was going to whip his ass, no DCF is getting called, because we know that that was just a way of just getting your frustration out in a word. Like, it's not literal threatening anyone's immediate harm or danger. But when it goes to you saying, like, your first part of your question was why does it take so long? Time is subjective, right? So when you have something that happens to someone, whether it's while they're a child, they may not understand what's going on. And it's not until somebody who has a lens that could see that this child's not acting bad. They're not promiscuous. They're not being fresh. They're not being fast. When you get exposed to something, regardless of what age you are, you can't get unexposed to it. And especially if you're developmentally not old enough to understand what is happening to you. And it's also a conundrum too. It's like, this doesn't feel right, but it feels good. Like, this shouldn't be happening, but why is my body responding like this? So then, like, one of the clips you mentioned about R. Kelly was a product of sexual abuse. So because no one saw it through the lens, or even if they did, no one got help for him because they wanted to use him for what he could do with his voice.
Mm-hmm.
So they enabled really bad behavior, and then it became a personality trait. And when something becomes a personality trait, I'm not saying that it's like impossible to cure. It becomes your identity. This is who you are. So like, it's really hard for you to cure personality disorders overnight. So like,
Right.
he was getting abused, no one did anything. And then when he was getting in trouble in high school doing things that were like sexually deviant, they were covering
Nobody's school there
because he was a boy. This is what he's like. He was a boy. This is how they act, and they needed him to get those records. Like, they needed him to make the money. So then he thought that money was going to be able to fix everything and get him away with everything that he was doing. I'm not excusing his behavior, but if someone had stepped in earlier, it would have probably helped a lot of other girls not have to go through what they had to go through because of what he went through, like, ended the cycle. When you mention time, I feel like time is when the person feel like it's time for them to talk about it, whether it's the next day, whether it's a year later, or whether it's 10 years later. That's when they felt that they could talk about it. And society's always, especially now with social media, everyone's gonna always have something to say. Oh, you said it too soon, or you said it too late, or you said it like that it was that couldn't have happened like that, or it had the way she said it, it had to happen, or the way she said it didn't happen, or the way he said it didn't happen. Like, everyone's gonna have their own opinion, but at the end of the day, it's in order for us to heal, we have to come together as a community and just love each other. Like, why is our first default is to just say, oh, she's lying or he's lying? Because at the end of the day, it's an embarrassing thing to bring forth for that person. It's filled with shame and guilt. Why add to that?
Shenira, you have anything to add?
So, when it comes down to sexual assault or anything that's just so personal, and as far as it concerns our communities, we've always had this history of just trying to save face, pretty much. Trying to put forth this front of, I'm okay, I'm all right, don't need any help, keep in the home, what's happening at home, keep things hush hush, stuff is not a big deal, kind of masking a whole lot of these negative behaviors. And honestly, this is coming from years in history of witnessing maltreatment and being in a more vulnerable place where that was forcibly put into our norm as a people when we were forcibly taken from our own environment. And so this kind of learned behavior worked its way, I feel, into our culture. And it's not even just a matter of me feeling it, it's facts. It's worked its way into our culture. And like certain things such as the sexualized behavior and just making it where with Black women being exposed like that, and it's just overtly sexualized, whether you're talking about even music videos or magazines or in school, and just the attention that is paid on for these girls as young as, I'm talking about 6 years old, or starting the adolescent stage, which starts at 9 and it goes, the adolescent stage developmentally goes from 9 to 25. But sexualized behaviors, it really plays a huge part within our community because, you know, with our bodies, we use our bodies for everything, for hard work, for obtaining some kind of attention, for managing our families, for loving people, for showing our emotions. So when you have something just so close, it kind of gets so enmeshed with just trying to find a normal way of life. And it's like, people, when they come forward about this did not feel right to me, you will have this score of others who are like trying to victim blame or shame them for the way they felt, because of, honestly, is what those individuals who are shaming, what they may be internalizing as a greater fear. Because at the end of the day, how much more, is going to hurt more as far as a thought process, the thought that, okay, this person, yet another minority, has been hurt, has been betrayed, has been damaged, disgustingly damaged? Or is it easier just to kind of shade the problem and think that maybe it's just another person trying to grab attention? Let's move on as usual. Let's not make our movie star a person of a blame and think of them as being at fault here. Some people become too big, but it's like we got to realize at the end of the day, everyone is human being. They bleed just the same. So people need to be held accountable, because this is why we go through these disgusting cycles. And as it was brought up earlier with even with R. Kelly and his history and him dealing with his own trauma and it not being addressed, but it being like shaded over and covered over. Yes, cycles, but in the same breath, at a time, we become accountable for our actions. And it is a disease, but in no way is it excusable, but rather it sheds a light on what really needs to be addressed much more aggressively, if anything, because now it's coming up more and in shorter time, I'd say. Because before it was, yes, like Cosby, it took years and years and years for people to come forward. Because imagine it, person as big as the Cosby Show. I grew up on the Cosby Show. I had dreams about being Claire Huxtable, all of that. That was the dream family. But to come up against a mogul like that, I would imagine it takes a whole lot. And then life happens, a whole bunch happens. You're trying to just work way through it and hope that passes over. But it's like, nah, I can't do this. But now people are becoming braver because they see that I'm not by myself. But if we don't do enough of that, showing that there's strength in numbers, people are going to prolong their reporting. And I'm not saying that there aren't others who are maliciously trying to seek some kind of gain, but I think the focus point becomes too much on those individuals versus like, okay, let's look into the facts about certain situations and just kind of not shade it over like, oh, this person does this and the other. Very well, much so, that's great. But at the end of the day, there's always some consequence for actions.
Is that one of the big things too, is getting people to believe you? Because the person that's doing the abusing is like always like a friend or family member, and nobody wants to believe that a teacher or uncle or aunt or nobody wants to believe. They very quick to dismiss what the victim is saying.
Yeah, because it's nasty, and they don't want to think of it. Like you see a lot of women, and their daughters come and tell them, oh, no, not my man. No, he wouldn't do that. No, he wouldn't do it. But not listening to your daughter, or listening to your son, or looking at their behaviors. My mother knew when I had sex. My mother knew when I was upset, I was angry. I'm really trying to deal with parents. Like, our parents need to really see more of what's going on, like recognize. Like, when I was assaulted, I told my friend, one of my good friends, she didn't believe me. You understand? And it made me scared to even come out and to say anything. And then I found out that this same person was doing this to many girls, doing that. But I was too scared to go to the police, especially the situation that I was in at that moment. We was going through a lot in my family, and I didn't want to put a lot on my parents. So that's another reason why a lot of people do not, especially young people, don't want to say anything, because they don't want to put pressure on their parents, or they don't want them to feel like they're being a burden by telling them their problem or what they're going through. We want to make it okay for our children to talk to us and tell us if somebody bothered them or somebody touched them or came in their personal space. Just like you said, I had a music teacher, and we did piano. He worked on Flatbush Avenue in Brooklyn. My mother took us there. I told my mother that he made us feel uncomfortable. She removed us immediately. That's what you're supposed to do as a parent. And also, like they said, you just spoke about R. Kelly. Yes, R. Kelly was out of order because nobody, like she said, never told him that's wrong. You cannot do that. We cannot normalize that. He was raped and molested by his sister. We got you understand? So by him doing that, he don't want to deal with older women. And you see his pattern. Like you said, everybody sat around, they normalized it because money was better than morals. Nobody cared about anybody else. And most of the parents brought their daughters there. We need to talk about that. A lot of these parents are dysfunctional. And everybody sat around and normalized the dysfunction. So now we have all this sexual abuse around. We have promiscuous young girls. We have promiscuous men, and also when the young boys get molested, they wind up not knowing if they gay or straight. So now we got mad, bitter young boys that nobody sat to even listen to them or even hear their story. They don't know what they are. Nobody never told them that was wrong, that somebody violated you, somebody touched you, they shouldn't have touched you. So us as adults need to really be on point with our children, with our young people, whoever we're around, to make sure that they're not being abused.
All right, let me show this quick video, then I'll come back to you, Kelly.
There's a lot of good
I was
points.
sexually victimized when I was like 13 years old. And it led me to exhibiting a lot of violence. I felt like I had a fear of being vulnerable. All of my other bids, I would go in there and establish dominance. I was operating out of fear. It seemed tough, just working out every day, being a monster. It seemed tough. But Kevin, that's really fear. But this last bid that I went to, this last time I was released in 2018, this was the best thing that ever could have happened to me, because it prepared me to receive these blessings that I'm about to receive.
Well, I love that.
Yeah, it prepared me. I wasn't prepared then. With great power comes great responsibility. And before this, I wasn't responsible. And even with relationships, I wasn't ready to be in no relationship with nobody because I was operating out of fear. You're going to hurt me. I ain't going to put my all into it for fear of being hurt. Because I was operating out of fear. You're going to hurt me.
Kev, you want to jump in?
You're muted.
You're muted. Yeah.
He's still on mute.
Am I off mute?
Yeah.
Okay. What the brother was saying, that's me. I mean, that was me. I think my sexual assault that happened to me when I was about, I guess, 10 or 11, I believe, probably led to, the divorces I went through, or the bad husband I was, and all that sort of stuff. So, because it sticks with you forever, And I didn't talk about it for almost 30 years. I didn't even talk about this to anybody in my family, And mine was at the hands of couple of relatives, stepbrother and stepsister, both molested me. So I went through this whole thing where, when you get molested by a man or an older boy, I should say, at the time, you spend your whole teenage life going through this whole thing thinking that you're gay secretly. Like I'm very attracted to women. I love women. But you still want to know how come this guy touched you. And did he touch you because I'm gay? So you're going through this whole thing and you're fighting that inside your whole system, basically all through your young adult life. And as a result of that, you're abusing women. Like you're like dating as many women as you can, not being as faithful to any of them. Racking up your numbers. Um, just to say, hey, I ain't gay. I just slept with 300 women. Like that. You know what I'm saying. So that's that behavior. My behavior had a lot to do with my sexual abuse when I was a young man. Yeah, a young boy. So it could affect you in many ways. I feel for R. Kelly because he's been used. Not only was he abused, but then he was used by the industry and parents who wanted their kids to get some of that money, and so they put their kids in his the whole Hollywood things. It's two different Hollywood sexual abuse and just everyday Joe sexual abuse. I think it's two different things. I think like people who get abused as kids by their relatives or whatever, and then Hollywood, is like a lot of people are like Bill Cosby. I don't mean to be jumping all over the place, but the Bill Cosby thing is I think he was a victim too of the Studio 54 lifestyle. Back in those days, everybody did everything.
Right.
Everybody in the 70s popped pills and drugged each other and did cocaine and all sorts of stuff. Back in those Studio 54 days, when everybody went to these wild, crazy parties with lots of drugs and bisexual activity and everybody banging everybody. So it was just that era. And I don't know if he, grew out of it. Maybe he didn't grow out of it, or just women who later came forward 30 years later said, hey, Cosby touched me back in 76 or whatever. He drugged me. Maybe he did, but, I think if everybody who drugged somebody back in those days in Hollywood was to come forward, it'd be the whole industry.
It would be the whole industry.
Yeah, because
Kevin, thank you for sharing.
I think everybody was doing that as far as the whole Cosby thing, and R. Kelly thing. It affects everybody differently, but I think he was used also a little bit. He obviously did this to these girls, and nobody helped him, like we said earlier in the show. But also, I think that people took advantage of him being who he was, because sleeping with R. Kelly could be like hitting the lottery, right?
That's
So
what
people,
they're thinking of. Yes.
yeah, so that's what 50 Cent say, have a baby by me, be a millionaire,
Yes, and that's
So
what's their goals.
yeah, so that was their goal, and I think
some
they
women,
put some of the parents put their kids in vulnerable positions, thinking about the dollar sign, and
instead of
then
thinking about their children.
when shit hit the fan, then everybody comes out and said, yeah, he touched my daughter also. We didn't know this was going on. I kind of like feel certain ways about that, but that's a whole nother show.
Thank
But
you for sharing your story, Kevin.
no problem. Oh, by the way, and I say this to you guys, know this, Tiff and Carl. I didn't. My family, my mom, my dad, my sister, my immediate family, they didn't find out about the sexual assault stuff. So I wrote my book that came out, I guess, 5 years ago. I wrote a book, and my mom and my dad found out from reading the book. I didn't even tell them in person. Like I couldn't tell them. I couldn't go, hey, mom, dad, hey, sister, brother, whatever. This happened to me when I was 11 years old. They had to read a book 35 years after the fact,
Yeah.
and turn to chapter so and so, page 106, and where I talked about being sexually assaulted in a book, you know. So that's how my parents found out. So you don't always come forward and tell people
No, you don't.
what
This
happened
is
to you, you know.
But this is also why it's so important to have the continual conversation about it when talking about normalizing that conversation. It's so taboo still within our community. People mention behavioral health. It's like a person of color can end up cringing. What I like about my colleagues and clients is like we have counseling, we have therapy, but we do it in a way where we put our own twist on it because we
Right.
know within the minority culture. I don't like saying minority, but for the sake and purposes of knowing what we're talking about, I'll use minority. But the minority culture, like we have this kind of flavor. We almost like you guys know Salt Bay, the social media sensation, the Salt Bay just adding salt to it. So I feel that's how we do when it comes down to counseling. We don't take away from the theories. We don't take away from some of the standards as far as understanding privacy or ethics or all the other stuff. What we do is we mold it according to our culture so that it is a little bit more recognized. I don't want to say we shade it over and just try to hide it, whatever. There's nothing to hide, but to recognize it. Because when you're coming in with all sorts of theories and such, it's not, it's going to be a little bit different from a person who's coming from a suburbia, whether they're white, black, Hispanic, or whatever, versus someone who's coming from the hood. You're gonna be presenting all these things, and it's like gonna be like, what in the world are you talking about? Like, what are you saying? But you have to kind of like change the language. It's almost like code switching, but not quite. But it's like just finding that commonality, being relative with the individual, but meeting them where they're at and building from there. But it's important to have that open conversation.
Can I ask a question to the therapist on the show? Is this a new thing? Like black therapists. Like I'm 59 years old, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I was probably, let's say, 18 years old, I wanted to talk to a black therapist. Was it available back in the 80s? I'm just saying. Like, is this like now black people becoming therapists, or is this something that's just been around forever that we just didn't know about, or is it get popular now because of social media?
I think what's happening is there's still not enough. Like, even though you see a lot more, there's still not enough. Like, there's still a really big shortage of black therapists, and it's still like a very big
So
shortage.
it's a growing thing amongst us. Okay.
It's always,
but go ahead.
I'm saying like it's something that's been around, like Kevin, just to answer your question. It's been around for ages. Just like many times where we've invented things or we've done stuff amongst our own people, therapy or mental wellness amongst our people has always been in existence. But as far as it being in the forefront, we've had a delay because of, again, even as much as we've tried to put things out there, we've also had it where our counterparts have put it out there according to their standards, but it wasn't quite fitting for us. And when you have it where individuals have more resources, or when they have much more they have a bigger platform because of monetary gain and being able to make those connections. Because keeping in mind with our people, we've also struggled so much with having it outside forces trying to cause a disconnect amongst our own selves, stir up issues amongst our own. So further delay, then increase of mistrust. And then we have psychology, and psychology, the face of psychology for so many years have been more of a white male. And it was like hard to accept. So like, this psychology, I don't want it because I'm trying to get back to my own people. I don't want it. I see offense, but that wasn't the case because we've been practicing it way back when we was still in Africa. We've been
Yeah, we was
practicing.
doing and we was doing therapy sitting in a salon chair.
Salon at the therapy.
Yes, I'm the therapist too.
Yes, at the in the makeup chair. But I think that so decolonizing therapy is what, like, I have all the clinicians. There's a training that literally is founded on decolonization of the therapy. I have the clinicians who join the team, offer them to take that training, because at the root of everything in America, or in like a lot of colonized countries, is colonization. And it doesn't say, oh, I'm going to colonize this part of the culture and leave this part alone. It's so deep rooted in everything that we do, and there's no part of it. So the mistrust comes from social services. The mistrust comes from going to the doctor and thinking that the doctor is going to
The whole
help you.
system.
Yes, the doctor. So like recently there was a mother who was breastfeeding their child, brought the child to the doctor to tell the doctor, hey, I'm breastfeeding my baby and I feel like the baby's not gaining weight. For her to have to wait almost 2 years to get her baby back after bringing her own child, and then they file for her for neglect, because imagine the mistrust that's going to be embedded in her for the rest of her life. To even when the kid is sick, to bring the kid back to a doctor, let alone a social worker coming into their family. So I think there's a big mistrust, and the place, like you mentioned, of psychology being a white male is so triggering to people that they shy away from it. And the normalization in the household of, you don't talk about your uncle's business, we will take care of it. And also and normalizing toxic and unhealthy boundaries within family members, not letting your kid create their own space and boundaries and listen to their body when they feel safe and unsafe, and say that's your family, that's your aunt, that's your uncle, that's your grandma, that's your grandpa. Go give them a hug, go give them a kiss, and just not knowing. So if your kid is getting a visceral response and this guy comes in the space, why not look into that and ask your kid what's going on here, instead of pushing him or pinching him or her to be
That's
like, you better
right.
give him a kiss, you better go give him a hug. Like you said earlier, Tiffany, being in tune with what your kids are doing, because no kid wakes up and says, I'm gonna fuck up everything, excuse my language.
That's right. That's
to make everyone's day living hell, and I'm gonna act up at school, I'm gonna act up at home, I'm gonna be out here on
something's going on.
Something is going on. And I think it's really like, look at a behavior as a result of something. So whether you're drinking, even for adults too, whether it's drinking, lying, compulsive behavior, impulsive behavior, everything that your body is behaving is a result to something. And therapy is a place for you to get to the root of it. And like Shenira said earlier, like, going to a therapist that looks like you takes away I feel like the fear of you thinking that you're gonna slip up and say the wrong thing.
That's right, because no white person can tell me nothing. I'm telling you, what can they tell me about my black life? They can't tell me about no black man. They can't tell me about no black woman. They can't tell me about my grandmother, my pain. Their pains and struggles is totally different from our pains and struggles. Their crimes is different than our crimes. You know, so it's a difference. So I want to look at somebody that looks like them. You know, I think that men should deal with black men when they dealing with therapy. Or if they got mommy issues, they deal with a woman. You understand? So it's all different ways that you can be able to deal with, you know, with therapy. But I'm not dealing with it white. I'm sorry, white people.
No.
You don't even have to be sorry, because they're not sorry when they discriminate against us. And the thing is, we have our choices, right? And we should make choices that better influence our lives for the long run. So you don't have to be sorry if your choice is to be with a black therapist. There's nothing to be sorry about that.
I want to ask Shenira, I got you muted because I'm getting some feedback. I can hear Yeah, I'm getting feedback. But when I mute you, it goes away. Donna, are you watching the show on a? No, okay. I was just curious, like, if you guys are talking to kids, like, at what age do you think we should talk to kids about sexual abuse?
8 years old.
The minute like like I said, I have 8. My oldest is 16. I have a 6-month-old. The minute like you're changing their diaper, you go, okay, I'm gonna change your diaper, and then you like, okay, I'm changing your diaper, I'm gonna wipe you, and you let them know. There's no like little nicknames for the penis and the vagina. It is a penis, it's a vagina. There's no little cute thing about it. And then when like they get to toddler age, you talk about boundaries. Like, do you need privacy? Do you want me to do this? Like, you let them know, because I'm gonna go wipe you. Do you need me to wipe you, or do you want me to teach you how to do it? And then there's like kids, like it's just there's stages. You need to be talking about it their whole like life, to the point that they're telling you too much. You're like, okay, let's
Yeah,
I think it's really
only reason why I said 8 is because they know right from wrong when they're 8 years old.
Yeah.
That's how I started with my nephews. I told them about their space, their boundary space.
Yes.
Don't let nobody come in this space. If they touch you, that's wrong. They try to touch your butt, it's wrong. You understand? You have to let them know, because if you don't, the streets is going to tell them, or another child is going to tell them, because that's how they get abused from other children also. So yes, you have to do that. I'm sorry.
No, and it's also really important not to worry so much. Yes, you worry about the people outside the family, outside the house, but a lot of the percentage of abuse
is inside
the circle. It's the babysitter, it's the nanny, it's the coach, the doctor sometimes. It's the aunts, the uncles, the cousins, the friends, the best friend that you thought you grew up with, because you don't know what other people are getting exposed to when they're not with you,
right?
Or what they got exposed to before they met you. So it's really having an actual live conversation with your kids as much as possible. It's a lot of talking. It's a lot of talking. A lot of listening to things that you're like, yeah, but you have to create the space for them to share to you about some doll that just came out. Because if they can't share about a doll, they're sure as hell not going to share about something that's making them feel shame and guilt. It's really important to just hold space. And even if it's just like on the car ride to work or on the car ride to school, that like 15 minutes just to do a check-in with no one's on the cell phone, no one's distracted, and just talk about, hey, what's going on with you? Or say, hey, I noticed this, so that they could see that you actually do care. Or
that's
like everyone being in home and everyone is in their room, that's not allowed at our house. Like if we're all home, we're all home. Like we're downstairs, we're in the living room, we're in the living area. Like there's no go on a tablet, go on an iPad, go on your phone in a room in a closed door. That's also, this right here is also exposing the kids to a bunch of people we don't know, a bunch of things we don't know. And the thing is, you can't unsee things. And you can't unexpose things. So if a kid is scrolling and gets porn, even though it's not physically happening to them, it's psychologically happening to them.
It's in their brain.
And now they want to, then that kid is going to end up sexually abusing some other kid, because now they're in their room checking out videos, and now they're getting exposed to things that they shouldn't have been exposed to.
It activated something.
So all the parents, who never had the sex talk with their kids, because they were too embarrassed or for religious reasons, they were doing a disservice to their kids.
So basically, when it comes down to talking about sex and children, many times it could be the intimidation, because it's like, parent, you have your babies, and exposing to sex is like, because of, again, it's the whole internalizing, is basing things off of the one's individual experience. And as parents, naturally, we don't want we want better for our children. We want our children to be exposed to better. And so a natural thing is to protect. What we need to do is, again, change the functioning around that conversation. Instead of letting the discussion of sex be such one of intimidation. Understanding, okay, what is it realistically that my child will be exposed to it one way or another? Because if they're not getting it at home, they're going to get it from the outside. The world has no shame. There's nobody above reproach. It don't matter who or where you come from, they're going to be exposed. So that phrase, charity begins at home, very much so. And
That's
even
right.
if you're going to talk about biblically, for those who are faithful, even read Bible, because it's a historical text. Train a child in the way they should go. When they get old, they won't depart from it. So it starts from young. You got people doing it, whether or not it's a negative thing or a positive thing. They're training these kids. So if you're talking about that conversation, exactly as Evelyn had mentioned earlier, talking to them from the time that they understand what their body parts do or happens with them, or when they're curious about it. In lifespan and development, when we're talking about the earlier stages, that self-discovery happens because they become curious about, okay, what is it that is on me, and this person they present as opposite of me, they're different. Kids did just like kids don't know what racism is when they're younger. They don't know what, like, the nastiness, if you want to call it, of sex, the deeper parts and emotional, but they're trying to understand their bodies. So even with for instance, my son, he's on the spectrum. And so there are some things that, for those who are familiar with it, Evelyn, I know definitely, but there are some things that are delayed for him. However, one thing's for certain, two things for sure. He knows about his body parts, and he knows sure enough when to cover up and when he don't want people touching him, and he knows how to report. I made sure of that. His father and I did, because even when taking time to help him wash, it's like, okay, we use straightforward words. I know I definitely do that within this household. I'm like, okay, I use penis. I don't say wee. I don't say your little
I
dingling.
was just about to ask. Why, because Evelyn did say, "Don't tell the kid this is your winky dinky and this is your."
Because when things happen, when the child needs to report, like for instance, using an example, if you have a child, a little girl, and the mother is saying, okay, don't let anyone touch your cookie or your purse, and something happens where the cookie or the purse, meaning the vagina, is touched, the child needs to report, oh, he touched my cookies, oh, he took my purse. In the court of law, in law, like in the courts, when they're trying to do that, it's going to be like they're going to use everything against that child, whoever is coming in defense of the person who provided the sexual assault. Like, well, she's a child. What she know about? She's talking about a purse, cookies. I mean, come on. And they're going to talk against it. But if you go and give straightforward words, the quicker they can understand what has happened. And then there's the other signs that a child gives, like when they urinate on themselves, when they become stagnant in terms of engaging with another individual, when they use artwork or whatever to express themselves, and they will certainly draw it out, all these nonverbal behaviors. So us as parents, or even elders in the community, it's important to pay attention.
That's what I said. You got to pay attention.
Pay attention to everything they do, because they will use things like recess, play, all of that. Super important for children, because that's how they learn about self-expression and appropriateness and engaging in appropriateness. So when something goes on with them, they know how to report through those ways, because sometimes they don't know the words to actually describe it, whether they're not coming from a home that actually supports that, or if it was such a traumatic event that it's like all they can do is work it through their bodies. It's important to show them body awareness and help them out with that, and engage with them and keep an eye out.
So we have to teach kids that just because someone is an adult doesn't mean we should trust them 100. They should trust them 100%.
Right.
Right. And teach them boundaries, and that it's okay to have boundaries. Boundaries will bless you. It's all right.
Yeah, my kids will say right now, you need to respect my boundaries.
Yes.
That's their favorite. That's their, like, when people come over and they're like, am I gonna get a hug? My son will tell you, I said no already. You got to respect my boundaries. Like, he'll only say it one time. And if you ask him again, he said, I said no. You got to respect my boundaries.
Malachi say no. And then he'll put his hand out like, no. I was like, okay.
I like that.
4-year-old, they're so firm on, nope, I said it. I'm not going to, don't make me repeat myself.
Then you have parents too that, my mother, her being sexually abused, we didn't know until my sister wrote the book. Right? You see how, Kev, you said you wrote a book? My sister wrote a book, Secrets That Little Girls Hide. And she wrote about being raped and molested by the babysitter that everybody in the community was taken there. You understand what I'm saying? And my mother didn't know, and it made her go into made her go into a nervous breakdown. And that's when we found out about her life, because she never told us about sex like that. She was one of them Bible bangers, like you trying to keep it, hidden. But we wound up going out there and finding out on our own. This is why I'm saying this era today, no, we have to talk to them. It's not like I feel like I was sheltered a lot, growing up. These young people today is not sheltered. Everything, like you said, is everywhere. They have access to everything. And then we have to work on our young girls, our 11-year-olds, our 12-year-olds, our 13-year-olds, because that's the time when they start popping, they start feeling, and boys is looking at them and stuff like that. You have to be careful with the drugs now, because now they're getting high off of drugs, and then they're being on the street selling their bodies. You understand? Because they was easily to be influenced. So we have to also talk to our young girls. Fathers have to be there for their daughters. You have to communicate with them. You have to talk to them. So no man or no boy can come around and tell them anything to get in their pants, to take advantage of them. Like this era, we have to talk to them, because if we don't, I'm telling y'all right now, them young people get to 18 years old and they tell you what you did and what you did not do. I done saw many of my friends raise their children, and their children did that same thing. When they turned 18, they told them everything they didn't do, what they should have did. And I was in a state of shock, because I thought the same thing.
I mean, we got to take into consideration too. We got, people like Sexy Red and Cardi B, and a lot of little girls are looking up to them. They're considered role models.
That's the parents' job, not they're
That's right.
They're doing what they're doing for a job. Like that's their check. Like that is not Cardi B's responsibility. That is not Sexy Red's responsibility. That's like saying it's the stripper down the street's responsibility when to raise your daughter or your kids. But I
honestly,
but those
suppose Sexy Red and Cardi B and all these rappers who get criticized for their content. Anybody would think maybe they had great parents? Like, doesn't mean Cardi B or Sexy Red's mom and dad were bad parents. They could have had great parents. Sexy Red still decided to grow up and be this rapper because she wants to get that paper, and she knows what sells, and somebody else told her what sells, so she's out doing what puts money in her pocket. Doesn't mean that she had bad parents either, right? I mean, I always think off the box. I'm a stand-up comedian, that's what I do for a living. So I'm always thinking different than everybody else. So as I'm listening to everybody talking, and we're talking about like protecting our black children.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to be bluntly honest, isn't it a crapshoot? I mean, there's going to be black girls that grow up to be gangster rappers. There's going to be black girls that grow up to be strippers, prostitutes, and everything else. And there's going to be black girls that grow up to be lawyers and doctors and teachers and therapists. I mean, so
this is the thing.
My point is, it's a crapshoot, right? Because are we really protecting our kids? Like, because you can raise your kids to be with all the manners and respect and love in the home. Doesn't mean they're not going to be Jeffrey Dahmer, right? I'm just saying.
You're absolutely right. Go ahead.
Yes, no one goes through life without trauma. That's like, it's impossible for one individual to go through a life without their cortisone level never being risen, and it's how that person deals with it,
right,
that influence the trajectory, right?
Exactly.
And I think that you could have the best parents in the world, but then you went to school and was being bullied. One kid could get bullied and it was like water and oil, that doesn't bother them. But one other kid could go and get bullied, and it has a total impact on their mental health, and it's a trauma. It's a traumatic event for them. I hear
So
you know.
I mean, I'm just saying,
It's
I
safe
probably
to
went through the same thing R. Kelly went through. I don't know his background. I don't know how bad he went through what he went through. I understand he was sexually abused, right? So I'm saying I could have been R. Kelly, right? I'm not in R. Kelly's position as
none of
far
us
as
could have been in our
being a musical genius is what I'm saying.
Mhm.
So and he is that, right? So he was put he became this musical icon, and then
Mhm.
all his demons came back to get him, right? Because
Mhm.
like they say, when you if you're an asshole, people go, oh, this guy got money, he's an asshole. That guy was always an asshole before he got money, right? He just when he got money, it magnified him. So R. Kelly was fighting these demons probably all his teenage life and his young life, but then when he got money, it magnified his power, right? Uh,
So should
that,
we
The
love
thing is,
so we
so I'm
should
just saying, I don't know how much we can protect our kids. We could be good parents to them. The reality is, these things that I just mentioned
Mhm.
have always been around in America, in the world. Period. You know, there's always been
Just
sex
like
workers.
therapy has always been around.
So
Just like a lot
Mhm.
of things has always been around.
no,
This is the
Yeah,
thing.
everything's always been
When
around.
it,
teaching
like
your
you're
kids how
right,
to
Kevin.
cope.
You're absolutely right
Yeah.
when it comes down to that. Like anybody could be exposed to these things. Anyone could be a Sexy Red. Anybody could be a Cardi B. Anybody could be a R. Kelly. Anybody could be the next Gabrielle Union or could
Barack
be the next
Obama.
like anyone can be anything. But the thing is this: at the end of the day, when it comes down to the child, when it comes to fruition, and they're in the household, as far as parenting, there is no manual with parenting. But what we do know is that when you provide the balance inside the home, and then the parents or the guardians make the effort of making sure to supervise while they are engaging, especially those first few years of life until their development. And when they go into the school age, doing what you can to connect with the resources, keeping an eye out. Takes a village to raise a child. Keep an eye out on the child. Keep it continual. They get older, they get aggy. Why? They got hormones. The hormones help them out as far as their emotions and understanding what it is that they're trying to feel, but at the same time, they don't understand. But this is why they need levels of guidance. This is why they have parents. This is why they have people to help them or who are supposed to be present for them. And this is also the reason why there's such need of mentors, because it helps them to shift and navigate them as far as they're building up autonomy or independence, because they could do a whole lot of this much quicker than they actually make the connections of consequences. This is a biological situation. Like literally, they need the repetition and the constant support while they are in that developmental stage, or else you end up with the Jeffrey Dahmers of the world, or those who are just off the chain and just seem to have this whole disconnect that just did not salvage itself. If you
Right.
get where people can get that repetition while they're younger, early intervention by research, early intervention shows has the greatest helps out with the greatest outcome for youth who are transitioning into adulthood. Because even if they go and fall away or they do some things, they can actually have a better chance of looking back in retrospect, or maybe doing better reflection and correcting things that they might go through. Because you're very right, you cannot control what it is that they ultimately make a decision of. However, you can play a big role in terms of managing the stability or helping them to be enlightened as far as what they get exposed to. Because all that
Right.
stuff, they reflect on it, they can reflect on the bad, but they can also have moments where it's like, yo, I remember when I did da 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 da. Even Cardi B, for instance, she had a whole thing. She was talking about history and how much she was into it. I mean, and for people who are probably judgmental, they're like, oh man, Cardi B talking about this. But I seen it as, okay, the household she was in. Now, at some point in time, she made up her mind where, okay, I'm dealing with stuff in my environment where I need to manage. And she goes through her story of becoming a stripper. It was something that, you know, she liked, but she was getting the money. She was able to handle that. That's what she decided to do. And she did it full blown and unashamed. And she did
Yeah.
what she had to handle to manage a lifestyle for herself. But
And
the
she
thing is that if you're hoping for better, all you can do is expose the child to as much as you can to better, and give them a good sense of themselves so they can be ingrained in that and take it to where they need to. And then most of all, you got to be a person who's not only willing to feed it, but willing to eat it too. Because there are going to be times where you might be wrong and you may have to own up to it. And there are times that you're right, and you have to not be afraid of just discussing that with the child.
So
listen, sorry, Carl. Cardi already told us she's not no role model. You know who my role model is? My mother. Okay, and I think that should be what should be role models in children life, not these celebrities. We have control of everything. If we're their parents, we have control of their phones, their anything that they do, they have control. Maybe we don't have control when they go to the school or whatever, but I know we have control at all times. I made sure I put a lock on my nephew's YouTube. You're not getting no adult YouTube. You're going in the kids' YouTube, and if you don't like it, what you gonna do? I'm the one. So you have to be like that. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Graduate my mother.
Yeah, and you know what? My nephews can talk to me about anything. My nephew called me that a couple of weeks ago. He was like, "Didi, what's a urethra?" I was like, let's go get the thing." And I'm over here like, "This is the urethra. This is the testicles."
They asked.
I have to tell them, you have to talk to them, you have to communicate. They feel comfortable. If they can't talk to their mother, they come into their Didi. You understand what I'm saying? So you want your children to feel comfortable to talk to you about anything. You understand? And not like judge them and be like, well, I might give them the stupid face like, oh God. But I want them to feel comfortable to be able to talk to me and communicate. And this is what we should do as adults, because we don't want them to keep them secrets. Because when they keep those secrets, it sits on them. And it weighs on them. And this is what happens when we have suicide. Because I know young people that have committed suicide, drugs, or trying to fit in, or they run into the wrong dude that's giving them a little bit of love, and then he gives them some ding-a-ling-a-ling, and that's all she wrote. She's selling her body. She's doing everything for him. So my thing is, we have to keep it real with them, because if we don't, the streets will. I'm sorry.
But not only keep it real, not for nothing, and I'm Yvelande, I know that you can identify with this. Not only keeping it real with them, but give them things to occupy their time. Because when I say that this whole thing in terms of sex and mindset and the youth, it's a natural thing for them, because they're already, when they begin from the womb, they're learning about their bodies. And so as they grow and learn about their bodies and learning what they can do and manage, it's so important that, because sex and violence is so primitive, so it's going to come naturally to them. What are they being occupied? What is their mind being occupied with? Are they being taught about financial wellness? Are they being taught about keeping their health up? Going and doing exercises.
Their Black history.
Their Black history. Talking about or family engagement. Then this is again why it's so important for parents to be all up in your kids' business. Me, I do a kung fu chops in my son's door. I surprise him. I let him go in there. I let him close the door, and then unexpectedly, sometimes I'll knock, and that way he can open it because I'm learning stuff. But sometimes I just randomly do it. But like, what you doing? I know he ain't doing nothing.
And children, young people appreciate that. They appreciate that. They appreciate their parents thinking. A lot of people don't get it. Your children look at all of those little things, and that's one thing I tell parents. The worst thing you can ever do is abandon your children mentally, physically, spiritually, because they need you. You are the first one they touch, they smell, they everything. So if you turn your back on your children or you're not there for them, they will turn to the streets. You understand? So
in order for you to be a good parent too, you have to do the work for yourself.
Yes.
Like the if you're hearing this and you're like, yo, I could never talk to my kid about X, Y, and Z, you need to sit with that. Why? Like, why? What root behind that? Like, why can't you sit and talk to your kid about sex? Like, what happened to you? And I'm not trying to shame or guilt you. This is something, a self-reflection. Either you journal it and you write, this is why I can't, because this is what happened to me. And what you do with that is your business, but we're accepting clients. I'm just kidding. But if you need to see a therapist to get into the root of why you're doing the things that you're doing or avoiding the things that you're doing, because it's in our history, our Black history, for us to be demonized, criminalized, and made to feel shame and guilt. They fetishize us, they sexualize us.
That's right.
They turn us into machines. So when they would do things to us in front of other people, it was filled with shame and guilt. And then it got carried through generation to generation that when things happen to us, we don't come out and talk about it. And then we
Yeah.
teach our kids the same thing. Like, oh, we're not going to talk about that. Or
it is important to normalize it that way, just like being or bringing it to the forefront. And like I've heard the phrase, I think it was by Jim Ron, but if you know your why, you can make it through anyhow. If you know your why, you can make it through anyhow, whether or not you're talking about normalizing conversations around certain sensitive topics, or if you're seeking to elevate yourself in certain areas and understanding it, be intentional. When you have these conversations with your children or conversations with people within your communities or whatever the case may be, when you're advocating, be intentional. Don't waste time. The more you're direct with it and understand what you're doing, the better, because then when you get those questions or when you come up against maybe some opposition, you have the strength of understanding why you're doing this in the first place. And you don't make it contingent on another individual and their ideas, but you know the purpose in which you're serving, why it is that you're going and you're engaging at the capacity. And then other people will automatically see that, because then they'll see the passion that you may have or the intent you may have, and it's clear for them. Because a lot of people, sometimes they go against things that they're not clear of. Sometimes if they're afraid, they'll go against it because they don't understand. But then that's when you bring understanding, when you understand for your own self.
So as far as parenting goes, should we move away from telling kids like respect your elders, that kind of stuff? Because
no, we don't move away from that.
Respecting your elders does not mean you disrespect yourself.
Exactly.
Respecting your elders.
Your elders. You had me on mute.
No, that is not what we're trying to say.
Respect your elders, and if this elder is abusing the kid, then the kid's gonna feel like, would that make?
Oh no, it's a difference.
Okay, so respect
you think a 7, 8, or 9-year-old knows the difference between disrespect?
Yes, they know what.
Yes, that's when we teach them that someone who respects you respects your boundaries.
That's right.
If someone who respects you wouldn't make you lie to me or your dad, wouldn't tell you that what I'm doing to you is our secret. We don't have secrets. Grown-ups shouldn't have secrets with kids.
That's right.
Inappropriate. That's not appropriate. Yeah.
That's not appropriate. Yeah, that's another like token word in our house. That's inappropriate.
Yep, I love that phrase. That's inappropriate. That's not appropriate.
So if a secret makes you feel something, it's also teaching them to listen to their body. If your stomach feels icky about a secret, then that's not a good secret.
That's
Secrets
right.
result in something fun at the end. Someone's getting a gift. Someone's getting happy. Someone's getting a surprise that's at the expense of somebody else. Secrets aren't something that you have to feel icky or shame or afraid to tell somebody. And no one can hurt me or your dad.
That's right.
That body awareness is everything. Like, that is our first responder. That is our link to like our emotional wellness. When you're feeling something, when you're feeling in shock or whatever, sometimes the first thing you feel, your heart, tachycardia, when your heart rate starts increasing, sweaty palms, when you get that lump in your throat, things of that nature. So that's why even with children, it's important like to see that with them. And then even with the whole respect situation, it's important that we also teach our children, as you respect your bodies and you respect what your body is feeling, you also understand respect towards another doesn't mean you're yielding in as some indentured slave or something like that. That means that you understand how to approach them and have reverence for who they are. But what you'll do is be able to manage a conversation as age appropriate. Now, if you're talking about a 9-year-old and you have some kind of 40-something-year-old doing something to that 9-year-old, yes, that 40-something-year-old by age is the elder. But as far as the child being in the vulnerable state, they have every right to yell, to scream, and do whatever, and say no.
That's right.
And do that, because that 40-year-old should know better, and for them to go ahead and use that and groom, that's disgusting.
So
that's beyond inappropriate. And the thing is that we have to talk to our kids about that, because sometimes we give such a you need to do, especially in our community. We are guilty of this all the way. It's like we'll go and say, yeah, you need to do this. I'm the older one. We'll pull rank. And that's what they did back in slavery, pulling rank. And when you wanted to be, the top slave, like you had the ones inside the house being treated better, or colorism, the ones, whatever have you, versus the one in the field, and you try to be close to massa and please it and whatever. So you got to be this kind of way. We have to find a way to unlearn that and teach them dignity. And yes, respect your elders, because that is very important. They hold such a prestigious position in our communities of what they can do and the wisdom that they are to acquire through the years, as far as what they've been exposed to, and being able to speak to us about it and feedback. But the thing is that there's also a big need for understanding the meaning of boundaries and how to be able to communicate as appropriate for when something is going on that is bothersome. And if anything, it would be doing an individual a great disadvantage if you're not talking to them about what is going on, that if they're being offensive, or speaking to your parent about when you feel offended about something going on, because eventually these kids, they grow up.
I think that's
what
they
don't stay there,
because I think boundaries became such a buzzword. I think that boundaries, like the way you teach boundaries is, when you do this, it makes me feel this way. So if you continue to do this, I'm going to do this. So that's a whole cycle of a boundary. So just saying something like, oh, that's respect my boundaries. It's like, I don't want to give you a hug. If you ask for a hug again, I will tell my mom. Or if you ask for a hug again, I'm going to go get my dad. Like, I'm not giving you a hug. Or I'm going to say hi to everyone in the room. I'm going to say hi, but I'm not going to kiss everyone. Letting them know. Walk in, say, hi, everyone. I'm going to say, this is how I'm saying hi, but I'm not going to kiss everyone. I don't feel comfortable.
Even if they put it out there, and they may not necessarily say all that in one sentence, but hey, everyone, hi. And then you got that one person says, hey, come over here, give me a hug. No, thank you. I'm all right. And then they continue to pursue it. Then instead of waiting to the number 3 to come up, if number 2 come up and they continue, but no, but just come on here and give me a hug. I said no. And if you ask me again, then X, Y, and Z is going to happen.
Right.
Get a person to do that at first, because they may not know you or like that, and they may ask for the connection, and they may be able to respect that boundary because you put it in place. But then when they start trying to cross over that fence, you ain't put up a wall, you put up a fence. I like to think of boundaries as a fence and not a wall.
One second, I'm not to cut you off. Kev, we want to say get well, because I know you said you're getting ready to log off. Please get well. We love you. And thank you again. All right, baby. See you next week.
All right. And I just wanted to personally, just before I get off, I was trying to break in and thank the guests. You ladies are awesome. Appreciate your perspective. Thanks for coming on the show. Hope y'all come back. See y'all soon, okay?
All right.
Thank you, Kevin. Be well. Take care.
See y'all. All right. Bye-bye.
But it's really important that understand that boundaries are fences and they're not walls. So you can still welcome people in. It's just they know where your cutoff point is for whatever reason. They're able to see that. They won't just come into your fence. So as soon as they try to come into your fence because they're not seeing it, then that's when you start showing them, okay, these are the dogs, the protected dogs.
Also,
so you come in to do that. Yeah.
Also, you got to remember too, predators know who to mess with and who not to mess with. If they see a strong family bond, they're not trying to come through that, okay? But if they see a leak or something that they can get in, they will get in. So that's another thing. Keep your family bond strong. Make sure that no one can be able to penetrate it or break the chain of it.
So when you see an adult who's being abused, you think if they had the right parents when they were younger, they probably would have had the right tools to avoid.
So you brought up Jeffrey Dahmer earlier. He was showing signs too as a young kid, and no one intervened. He was going around killing things like nothing. Like it was like his pastime was killing things,
killing animals.
And his dad was like a little bit scared and grossed out about it, but he kept hiding it from him to the point that it got to where it was. Like, but I feel like there's always a point when you could see that there's an area of intervention that's needed. And these adults, these kids become adults. It's kids who get abused that become adults who never got a chance to heal and learn from how to cope with the trauma in a healthy way. So I remember in grad school, I used to always ask this question. It's unfortunate, but this is how the world is. The same resources and support you would say to an 8-year-old, to a 10-year-old, to the 15-year-old, to the 16-year-old. But there's something that happens when they turn 18 and 19. They could be 17 and getting all the support about this trauma, this anger issue, all of this stuff. Then the next day they turn 18 and then it's flipped. Now it's like, you're grown, you should know better. And then it's unfortunate that they didn't get the intervention that they needed and they need, but now they're going to be 19 and just getting older and getting into deeper, older people trouble. And then especially when they're Black.
And you didn't create a boundary.
They need that mentorship to teach them that thing that's like, again, the emotional wellness.
For that very reason. And Massachusetts lets you have a therapeutic mentor up until 22 years old because Black men are adultified at the age of 12. At the age of 12, when a teacher, a white teacher, would describe a Black student, it's usually by their size and how big they are.
Yep.
And there was a study done that they were perceiving these kids bigger than they were actually are. They were saying that they were about 5'7" or 5'9", and
they think they're grown men when they're children.
They're kids, they're babies still.
And then
mentally,
the way they would describe them is like this monster, but it's because it's been systemically put into our media,
with
the whole Jim Crow law book, the new Jim Crow, is if they could put us in mental slavery, they don't have to do no work anymore.
Right.
So perpetuate this whole King Kong thing and like the way that they put us, like I accidentally watched this thing because I was just playing on YouTube, but how voodoo, when they were talking about voodoo in Haiti and stuff like that, how they depicted it as these big Black monsters to demonize the whole spiritual practices in Haiti. When they brought it over, they just made this whole story up about these big Blackness. And then that story just got perpetuated through history so that's in the classroom.
Now they trying to do it.
Now the classrooms, these kids are in these classrooms with these teachers that are also perpetuating it. Same thing with these girls, because their body's curvy. Now these girls, they're fat, or
they always over sexualize Black people.
Yeah,
you have some girls who they end up having, like, because genetically they can't help it, they're going into this. And I talked about this in the class that I teach on adolescent psychology, where they're entering this phase of their voices change overnight, or they're growing taller, they're getting these body parts that they didn't have in such increase before. And absolutely, they may be developing physically, but mentally speaking, they're trying to catch up. And again, the whole keep an eye out to help them out while they're trying to navigate this. The body is a whole tool. We are to take this and honor it and understand it much better than anybody else will understand it, because there's so much that happens with it. If a child doesn't know, they're very impressionable, and anyone else can come up and talk to them about what it is that they're dealing with within their own bodies, and they can be quickly influenced, because if the majority is doing it according to their environment, then it's easy just to go ahead and be like, well, maybe I should do that. The pressure comes in and it's like, well, maybe this is the right way to do it, because nobody's been in that place to help teach me different, or to really talk to me about another way. If you give them choices, if you show them, if you help them out with understanding, they have something else to grab onto. and to think about versus
So,
just what that person says.
for the parents and the kids and everyone who's watching who may have experienced the traumas, all the things we talked about, it doesn't mean that you're broken. It doesn't mean
That's
that there's
right.
hope for you. It doesn't mean that you're going to turn out to be this horrible person for the rest of your life. It just gives you an idea that there's nothing wrong with you, that there is in fact something that did happen to you and a reason to why you feel and think and behave the way that you do sometimes that doesn't make sense. That there's hope for you to heal and turn this into a testimony of how you turn this horrible thing into a flower or into something that's great and flourishing and to the best version of yourself that you could be. Like, I don't want you to listen to this and feel like there's no hope. This is hope. This is where you could find your voice, find that you're not alone, that there's many people who've been through what you've
That's
been
right.
through, and that your parents only could parent from the best of what they know.
No, that's right. The best of their ability.
Most parents want the best. And if they could only parent from the self-awareness that they have as parents. So if it's not to blame you as a parent, it's not to blame your parents for how it happened to you. It's just to give you some context to understand the cause and effects of what's happening, and that there is hope for you to heal, to grow, and to be the best version of yourself.
Yeah, it's very important just to like look at those parts that have like look in retrospect because Evelyn, as you even brought up earlier with asking yourself why, like not just stopping there, like, I don't want to, well, why? And then you'll find that maybe there have been instances where you've been stopped or things have been paused or something has happened to cause you to draw away from a situation where you may need to go forward or push forward. Is that hesitancy? It's like, okay, what serves as a block? And then being able to revisit that place, however it looks like, revisiting a place, whether it is having that candid conversation with your parent or guardian years later, or reaching out to that person because it's for the sake of you and not so much necessarily trying to make amends with the individual, but because you need to heal with
making forgiveness.
With my practice, we say the phrase, you cannot heal what you don't reveal. There is no healing for things if you don't bring exposure. Even with like wounds and stuff, they tell you like in terms of the wound, when it is exposed, that's when you can go ahead and apply whatever it needs to be applied so that it can go ahead and heal. You keep it in a bandage, but if it's really severe, you're going to have to let things air out as well because you want to make sure that everything is being addressed. You want to redress the wound because if you don't do that, it can infect again.
Yep, you have to feel it to heal it. I think that's a therapist thing. We all have our version of you have to feel it to heal it. Yes.
All right,
and the safe space too. Yeah.
Evelyn has to go. Evelyn, I want to thank you so much.
I had fun with you. I enjoyed you.
Thank you, Evelyn.
And can you tell us if anyone wants to to get in contact with you or your center, because I know you do virtual therapy also. Can you tell us?
Email intake@sereneway.org. We have an Instagram, Serene Way Therapy. You can message us there and get connected with a therapist. And I think we have, if you Google Serene Way Therapy and Wellness Center, the phone number will come up. But I think that right now, what I do before I wrap up and before I do leave, I did want to say, like, if this was something that triggered anything, the conversation that you want to have with your kids and you don't know where to start, just start with this, like, genuinely intentionally asking them how their day was.
Yes.
And then when they said good, why was it good? Who'd you sit with at lunch? Did you eat lunch? What did you have for lunch? It doesn't have to be like, hey, do you having sex? Like, it doesn't have to be the first time you guys talk to be it gradually grows there. And there's this thing called food talk. You could get it on Amazon. It's a jar. And you just while you guys are driving or eating dinner or something, you just pull out a card and it gives you prompts on how to like have conversation with teens. So I think that this is a conversation that needs to happen in our community, but I don't want to leave it with it feeling like we were like like you guys need to do better. But here's a tool, like you guys can do better because
Yes.
we can do better and we will do better and with
Yes.
tools. So if you
Yes.
aren't familiar with how to have these conversations, get this. It's called Teen Talk. It's on Amazon, and it's just random things like, why do you like who's your favorite rapper? Why? What? Or they ask you, can you rap one of their songs, and just be silly with them and just get like, because even though they're going to say you're cringy, you're awkward, you're embarrassing, they need that memory. That's a core memory that they need to have so that they could be embarrassed around you too.
Exactly.
Pleasure,
Exactly. It's all about that connection.
Yeah.
All about the connection.
All right. And Evelyn, thank
you, Evelyn.
Truly appreciate it, and I hope you come back sometime again. You know,
Oh, I would love to.
Thank you.
Yes.
Happy holidays, everyone.
All right.
Happy holidays.
Thank you. Bye. So that was Yvelande Boursiquot, Serene Way, SERENE Way Therapy at Wellness and Wellness Center.
Make sure y'all check her out.
Yes, please check
Please
her out.
do.
All right. Well, three of us are still. We wanted to. Have you seen this video with this white cop taser this brother? I mean,
I saw it, and he cried like a baby. He
Oh,
said that
wow.
taser tingled his balls.
this is and
Wow.
I mean, this is just crazy. This is
And you said it was a black cop or a
No,
white
it was a
cop
white
taser.
cop named Dana. I
Yeah.
think she was getting off by pushing him on the side of the car and telling him to spread his legs. She's like, shut up, bum, shut up.
And
Tell
it
all
was
that
so
cop.
it was captured, I'm guessing, on the police
Yes,
camera.
it's on video.
Stand up. Right there on the front of the car. Stay straight.
I ain't doing shit, bro. I got gun right there. I'm not doing that.
Oh, yeah.
I'm saying, what you saying? Oh, yeah, fuck. I'm not. Oh, my God.
Fuck up.
Okay. Oh, down. Oh, my fuck. Oh, my God. Oh, God.
You want it again?
No, man.
Shut the fuck up. You was big and bad. Shut your bitch ass up.
He was just changing his tire.
Yeah, so that brother was on the side of the road changing the car tire. This cop pulls up, says it looks like suspicious activity, and that's what she did to him.
That cop needs to be fired. Whether or not they're hiding bodies in the trunk or whatever, just the engagement right there. There's a way to carry yourself as a cop. You can still be stern, you can still be forward and direct, but all that extra, that's like them being maniacal, having fun, and enjoying something.
Yeah, I think she got off on that shit. I really do. The way she was talking,
like the way she sounded. Oh yeah. That's
yeah.
what I'm talking about. Look at you. No. That is totally it.
And then he started crying.
Yes.
You know, like she was getting off on it. That's why it's so sad, because you have to warn your nephew. I mean, you have to warn the men, the young people that listen, just say yes, no, ma'am, because they would try to kill you and hurt you. He was just changing.
And this was on
tire.
a cam, and she was doing this boldly. Like I don't know if she had some kind of situation of her own going on mentally, where she just became a little bit deranged and kind of psychologically compromised, and she's on camera because body cams are all across.
No, wait a minute. No. They said she ripped her body camera wasn't on. They said the car camera, all the plugs was pulled out of it. It was a guy that actually. This is all alleged, because this is what I'm watching off the news or whatever. They said it was a young man, because they remember all of them was on the side of the road. So he was away from them, but he was zooming in to what he was doing to the.
So somebody else had to put it on camera for it to be seen.
Yes. This is not no regular Kim. This is one of his friends. So we want to give a shout out to Steve Jobs that's in the ground dead. Thank you for these phones with the video. You understand what I'm saying? Because if you don't have
whoever
no
invented
video,
Androids too, be capturing videos and everything too.
Yeah, we got to shout out
No.
to
See,
Info.
you know he was the one that opened up the doors. If it wasn't for the iPhone,
For Apple,
we would
Microsoft,
not have nothing. Okay, so that's the only reason why I gave the dead man a shout out is because if we didn't have no videos, you know how many people. Imagine if we had videos from back in the days. Oh my gosh. But just the video that they was able to catch that and capture that. She did get recommended. I don't know if she got fired or if they took her off of the
pay her pension and put her and suspend her until they restrain her on her work and then fire her because we don't. No.
Have you guys do you guys have 3 minutes?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Watch this video of a white man being pulled over by the police. He tells the police he has a gun. He tells the police, "I will shoot you." You would assume
and they do nothing, right?
He said he's not going to shut off the car, so. Okay, that's all right. Just keep an eye on it. Just get the right foot. Just start. Put your hands on the steering wheel. No. What are you reaching for?
Oh, whoa. Hey,
get out of the car, man. You got a gun right there.
Whoa.
Get out of the car.
There's rights to this.
Get out.
There are rights to this.
Do you have a concealed
There are
carry?
rights to this.
Whoa, get out. Hold up right there.
It's open. My hands are up. No,
you gotta.
This is on body cam. You have body cam, sir?
Put
Do you have
your
a body
hands
cam?
over your eyes.
Do you have a body cam?
Put your hand over your eyes.
Do you have a body cam, sir?
Put your hands over your eyes.
Cam, sir. Yeah, you're gonna
I will send this dog on you.
I will shoot you if you do.
Don't fucking grab that gun.
You have rights.
Put your hand.
You have rights too. You have rights too.
Don't you dare.
You have rights. You
Right.
cannot
Don't you
shoot me
dare.
here.
You
It's
need to be-
unconstitutional. You know that.
Right, you have
Whoa.
a weapon, okay?
Yes, I
Don't.
do. And it's
Don't.
What
What I need you to do.
Hey, you guys are grabbing me on this is also unconstitutional. Body cam request.
Can you quit yelling so I can talk to you?
You have a gun for me, sir.
right now. I need you to relax for me, okay?
I will shoot you if this possible. That is a threat and it's open threat. You have no body cam. You know this.
He has a
My
body
hands are open. My hands are open.
Okay.
My hands are open.
You need to get out of the
No,
car
I
so
do
we
not.
can remove you
I
from
do
that
not.
weapon.
You cannot. No, it is constitutionally owned. I see that.
Do you have a concealed carry permit?
It's not concealed.
Yes,
you
it
can
is.
see the weapon. It's right there.
Don't
body
do
cam.
it.
Body.
Okay.
What are you afraid of?
Don't do it.
I'm not doing anything.
Do me a favor. Just please step out of the car. That's all we're asking you to do.
Oh, you're asking me not to gunpoint.
Yes.
Conceal your weapons, please.
No.
This is how we
Get out
treat
of
each
the
other
car.
civilly.
Please.
This is how we act civilly. You know
Sir.
this. Right eye. Right eye.
You got cover? No. Just,
Yes, we do.
Don't. Just
Do
please.
you have body cam?
Please.
Do you have body? Do not forcibly remove.
Do not.
me from-
Don't.
Whoa,
Do it.
You know
Don't.
that. You know that. It's not.
Please.
it's not-
I need you to get out of the car. Out. Then out.
Hey, SC double blue, sir. They're gonna shoot me on double blue.
Just relax.
No,
Please
just relax.
Hey,
There's
please
rights
get out of
to
the car.
this. There's rights to this. You know there are rights to this.
Listen, we can figure this out. We can talk about this, okay?
Oh, this is how
But
you
right
feel
now,
about this.
we can't
Listen.
talk about it with you not listening to us.
Well, not listen. You are forcibly grabbed.
All I'm asking you to
You're
do.
violating my rights right now. Let go of me.
You just put your hand on a gun, sir.
Whoa! No, you pulled a gun on me unconstitutionally.
Please.
And I did my in response.
We don't want to do this, man.
Just get out of the car. I'm just asking. We'll get this figured out. Just come out and just get out of the car.
You release me now.
We can't do that.
Release it. I have Second Amendment rights, David.
Okay. Just get out of the car. Come on, come back here. We'll
Excuse
talk
me?
about it.
Excuse me. This right here is a reason
We'll
to
get
defend myself, cast a doctrine. You know that.
We'll get this figured out. Don't do it. Please. Just come on.
Get out of the car, sir.
Just get out of the car. Just step out.
The gun's down.
No, just step out. Just step out of the car. Just don't do it.
Get out of the car.
You're on double blue. You know what's going to happen, right?
Just stop.
You need to get out of the car. That's a lawful order. You're going to go to
What,
jail.
a gunpoint? Oh, take me to jail then. Go ahead.
Just come on.
You're obstructing.
I can't.
No, you're obstructing. You're pointing a gun at me, sir. Right now, my life's in threat.
Okay. Well, we have.
I don't even see body cam on this, sir. I'm just going to drive away. I'm not going to bother anybody.
No, you're
Hands
not.
on the seat.
Don't do this.
No.
Don't do it. Don't.
Yo, Carl, first of all, that was too long. I don't understand why they didn't drag him out of the window. Why they didn't drag him out the window and beat the hell out
You know why? We all know why.
Because he had that white skin protection. I don't understand why he didn't get his ass beat.
He had his sunblock on.
The hell?
The thing is, it's like that took entirely way too long.
Right?
And I'm not saying that that's every situation, but right there, he was so dangerous. He has a open weapon, and you're threatening
And
authority.
he says, "I will shoot you."
Like he does have rights. Like, you know, even I've had my own situation where I was dealing with a person who a cop who was like threatening towards me, and they pulled me over for something that was definitely wrong, and I did not roll down my window. I made him show me stuff or whatever, but there's a line, and right there, him doing that dude in the car, total disrespect. He should have
But
did
he's
what
still alive. He's still
yeah,
alive.
and no, that's my thing. Like
That's
I'm
it. That's what I don't understand.
Like I'm taking off my glasses. Like I'm waiting. I'm like, okay, now. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Well, now.
Yeah.
All right. Now, like nothing.
Yeah.
And you
I was hoping that they would drag him out the window.
Yeah.
Sir, you closed your door. You opened and closed your door.
Yeah.
Like
I don't
you
understand
had
why he wasn't dragged.
that was sunscreen. He had his sunscreen on.
Absolutely.
He was dragged. He would have been dragged. I mean, if he would have had that brown color on him, you know, they would have dragged him out of that car. They would have been tasing him like, damn.
They would have shot. He said to the cop, "I will shoot you."
And the cop said, "Please don't do this. Please don't do this. Please don't do this." I'm like, yo.
No, this is the system. Do you see it?
Traveling with me when I go down to other states,
Yeah.
so that you because that's some strong protectant. That's some strong repellent, sir.
Yo, Carl, I wanted to tell you, did y'all hear about the young lady? She's 26 years old. She tried to burn down Martin Luther King's childhood house.
Yeah, I saw that.
And some two cops, retired cops from New York, saw her because they was, sightseeing. And they saw her just dushing gasoline on this house. I think the house was, wait a minute, I think the house was built in 1895. Okay, this is how old this house is. And she was 26 years old, and I think she's from the Navy. And she tried to burn, and when they asked her, she didn't say anything. You think she was brainwashed to burn down Martin Luther King's house, or you think she was just something mentally wrong with her?
She's black, white, Hispanic.
She's a black woman, 26 years old.
I'll be honest, the generations coming up now, there's this kind of air, and I'm not saying this speaks for everyone. Does not speak for everyone, but this kind of air of entitlement and being rebels without a clue. You heard the phrase "rebels with the cause." Got a lot of them rebels without a clue. They know how they feel about something. They're upcharged emotionally, and they just strike. And that's so dangerous. They become impulsive. But whatever it is that she had against the house, where that house needed to be lit on fire, or if she was bored, whatever the reason, that impulsive behavior, there's a disconnect.
Yeah, and it's so sad because you know that a lot of people don't know that Martin Luther King's mother was assassinated in her church. She was actually playing the organ, and a black man came in there and killed her. You know, a couple of years after Martin Luther King died. So when you see these black people, I would not be surprised they program whatever, because what would make you want to burn down Martin Luther King's house? Like,
stupidity.
This house is a historic
ignorance,
site.
Impulsion, rage, whatever it is. Sometimes the emotions make no sense. But again, going back to the whole thing, keep an eye out for these kids. Help them with whatever it is. Boredom is an evil thing, because that other ideals quickly can come to fruition when a person is bored and they're young and they don't have anything else. Sometimes they hook onto the wrong thing, and that thing grows because it feeds off of all that energy and space not being used. Unused potential, untapped potential could be.
What are you doing? What are you doing? No, that's gasoline.
Was there some type of direction? Or
So me and him were looking at the house, just checking it out. We're not from here, and she came up behind us, had a gas can, and at first she just seemed like she was kind of doing her thing, like I thought maybe she was watering the plants or something.
To be using a gas can
Yeah.
to water the plants.
And then she had trouble getting it open, so eventually she unscrewed the top and threw it to the ground and walked up on the porch and under the rope and started dumping the gas all over the porch. So instantly it's like, okay, this is not good. And I said, what are you doing? What are you doing? And you could smell the gas. So she came back down. She dropped the can in the bushes and then came back down to grab her lighter.
Gosh, I'm just a mom. I'm sorry.
Rebels without a clue. Dangerous. Don't let the kid be bored. Get them in all sorts of programs.
She's like, get them activated.
Get them in a program. And if they start complaining some more, you put them in another
But
program.
a lot of programs is being taken away from too. You know, a lot of programs is being taken away. But I understand what she said. Keep your children activated. Keep your young people activated that they don't go out there and do some dumb shit like this or run into some predators.
But before I get off, because I gotta get ready to go too, but just to put out there in the light of looking at young people and really putting into their lives. My practice right now, we're doing a cohort on entrepreneurship mindset. We're putting everything together now, but it'll be launching in February. We're going to be accepting 6 to 7 youth between 17 to 25. There's going to be a small fee, but they're going to get curriculum and materials, peer support, and case management. But it's all about building that autonomy type of mindset, looking at barriers that may happen for them in terms of their mental wellness and understanding what it means to like really transition into that adulthood piece. That emotional intelligence is a big thing that lacks, and a lot of research just like goes behind that as far as the lack of mentorship and just supervision to help them kind of grow into that, because they have all the tools. These young people are brilliant, but the issue is that a lot of their brilliance is kind of like coaxed, or it's just not really brought up because they don't have the safe grounds to really do so. So that's something on my part that I'm doing. So I encourage everyone out there, please, if you can, but if you don't have something of your own, invest in a non-for-profit or a business that's actually trying to do for your community. Because if you don't do it, they're going to end up at your front door. I'm just saying.
Thank you.
Call, you're muted.
So how can they get in contact with you?
Oh, well, as always, I'm like over here not even paying attention to that. So you can go to well, you can call the business number is 203-873-1262. Again, the name of my LLC is Mental Growth Internal Healing LLC. We're located out of Hamden, Connecticut, the Hamden New Haven town line. But I also have a non-for-profit that I'm co-founder of, Altogether Healing Incorporated. Our CEO is Andre Henry, but you can reach me by that same number because I'm the behavioral health consultant with them, and we have a lot of programs that we do in the community between we're connected between Connecticut and New York. So for all my New Yorkers out there, I love you. I don't like to say, I'll admit to it, that parking is it gets on my nerves, but I love the people. There we go. You just won't catch me parked out there like too much.
And then one of the big things we wanted to get across with this show is we got to normalize healing and mental wellness in the Black community. You know, it's frowned on. It's looked at as you're weak or when you need that. Suck it up, deal with it. I think we're dealing with it, but we're not really dealing with it. You know?
No, you're bandaging it. You're coaxing over it. You're trying to get over it instead of get through it. We lack so much because we don't go through process. It's like going to build something, not reading the instructions, and then you start using it. It may work for a little while, but you're trying to figure out why is it breaking down quicker than everybody else's. Well, you didn't read the blasted instructions. You missed the bolt here and there. You forgot you used part A as a part C because you thought it looked okay and whatever. Nah, nobody told you to be a MacGyver. Read the instructions, handle your business, go through the process, because that's how you're going to come out better. But sometimes people need the support with that, and we need to be able to support each other as we do the process.
Yeah, because I'll tell you, I'll be honest, my dad passed away earlier this year, and I felt like I was dealing, like I'm handling it, but I'm not. You know,
Mhm.
I look normal. I talk normal. When I interact, I look normal, but
Mhm.
I am a total mess. You know, I feel like I really feel like I have no purpose anymore because
You're going through grief right now, and
Oh
it's
my God, Carl, you
okay
better
to
call
grieve.
Shenira and take a seat in her chair.
because I mean my dad was everything to me, and now that he's gone, I'm like, what's the point? That's my whole attitude. Like,
But you have children. You
I
have
mean,
your.
I exactly what you're saying. I know that's what people are gonna say, but I know how I feel.
Oh.
So there's
And
nothing you said is gonna bring my dad back. So and that's this, you know what I mean?
This is the thing too, Carl, because it's going to take time. First off, this is the important thing. It's going to take time. You just lost them. We're talking about a man who's been in your life for X amount of time.
Yes.
Versus just now this has happened. You have to give yourself that time and honor that for yourself to actually go through it, because grief is not easy for anyone. But not only that, it's possible to continue to go through grief, but things get better as time goes on. But right now you need to honor your father's memory and the connection that you had, and honor yourself and your feelings by allowing yourself to manage to go through it, even if it's just talking about it and sitting down and talking with someone who's just going to have an ear, and because it's a lot. You said that you feel like you have no purpose anymore. I get it, where the person that you may have done so much for, it's like now they're not here anymore. What is there now? And that's not uncommon for people who lose their parents, and they may have been caretakers or been doing things for them, and the parent leaves, and they may have had so much ideals or things that they wanted them to see, and it's like they're not here anymore. But what I encourage clients of mine to do, and I firmly believe this, they may not be here in body, but it's so possible to think of those things that you may have gained within the time of being there. First off, not shaming yourself with the what ifs, but also looking at, okay, how can I honor their memory right now? How can I honor what they have done and kind of pass it forward, because I'm still processing this. It's still hurt. I'm still grieving, but you know what? It's not going to stop life from me. I'm going to continue living life, because if they were here, what would they want to actually see? And
I was
no,
getting
they're
ready to
not
say
here.
that. What would you think your dad would want you to do?
And it could be like, well, he's not here. But the thing is that if with you loving him
He
so
know
much,
his dad. He knows his dad.
but yeah, with you loving him so much, you can still go and live it out, where even people who know your father too, you can show the best parts of them. You can show the best parts of them. And so that's like, giving, again, honor your time, and the feel the feelings, allow yourself to feel it. You have to, because if you coax that up, that could come up in terms of health issues.
Yes,
God is my
your
witness.
health.
That comes up in
Yes.
terms of health issues. That's why the Black community deals with so like a high rate of all these chronic illnesses,
Yeah.
because we bottle so much up.
In
Whether
our
it's
bodies,
loss
yes.
or detriment, opposition, we bottle it up because we got this whole strong complex. The thing is that the strongest person can still go ahead and manage that vulnerability, whether it's crying or being transparent or whatever, and still have that sense of self where this is not my defining moment.
Right.
But it's certainly something that is within the quilt of my life. And you know what? I'm going to find a way how to make it purposeful, be intentional.
Right.
But give yourself time, Carl.
And everybody, they deserve the time. You're not going to get over it overnight. It doesn't happen like that. It doesn't happen. I lost my father, and I understand, but I know that he definitely wouldn't want me to be going through it, crying. I couldn't do it. I have to live my life, because he would have definitely want me to live my life and take care of my mother and my sister and stuff, because he said that before. Make sure you take care of the family when I'm gone. I
love the way you said
that. Yeah, he was like that. That was the type of individual he was. So I had to live that on, because we don't want to go with the dad. You understand what I'm saying? I know I'm not ready. It's so much stuff that's for me to do, or things that he never did I want to do for my father. You understand what I'm saying? So I'm not going with the dead. I honor the dead. I salute the dead, because if it wasn't for our ancestors, Carl, you wouldn't be here if it wasn't for your baba. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my father. Your father, you wouldn't be there for your father. So that's right. We definitely salute our parents, and we honor them, and we honor your father, Carl, and we send healing and vibes to you, that it will get better for you in peace and balance, because we know we can't bring dad back, but we know we want you to be able to have his healing hands around you to make it easier for you, babes.
Exactly. So sending healing love and vibes to you.
Thank you. I appreciate it, but
yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, I'm gonna head off because my little person, he kept on coming in here asking for chips and juice.
So I want to thank everyone for checking out the show today, and truly appreciate it. Shenira, our resident therapist, in case you didn't know that.
Love y'all.
Please contact Shenira, because we in the Black community, we need healing. It is pretty obvious, but for some reason, a very small percentage of us ever seek healing, because we think we're so strong, we can do it on our own, we don't need it. Myself included, I really include myself. So I just want you guys to take care of yourselves, tell the people you love that you love them.
Yes.
Tiffany, any parting words before we go?
I hope that everybody enjoyed and understand the show. I hope that we was able to give enough information. This is not going to be the only show that we're going to be able to talk about it. We got to talk about it again, because we need more than an hour to talk about sexual abuse and sexual assault, and things to look out for, and what to teach our young people not to do, and what to do if you're in that situation. Please, if you need to reach out, we have therapists here. You can rewind back and go back, or they have therapists online. Go to your primary doctor. Find somebody that looks like you, that can understand you and what you need for your healing and your health. Don't be afraid, because there's many people out there just like you, like me, that's going through it, and we're working through our dysfunction. But sometimes we need that break, or we need to be able to talk to somebody, or somebody to even hold us, to tell us that they love us and they care for us. So you reach out to anybody that you know that needs that love and care, and be kind to people, because you will never know what people are going through behind closed doors. I love everyone. Thank you for tuning in, taking your time out to tune in with me, Carl, and Kev at the Black Therapy Show with our panelists. We thank you so much. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share. Again, this is fair use, educational purposes. We don't own the rights to any of this content. God bless, and thank you so much.
Y'all are dope. Yes.
All right. Thank you.
With the knowledge you gain, break away from the chains. We helping you grow the Black Therapy Show. You in a safe space, dealing with the black trauma. We unpacking and inspecting all our baggage and drama. Because we gotta unite, no more killing each other. It's time to see a new future for my sisters and brothers. You know it, Kevin, Carl, and Tiffany. You'll have an epiphany. We'll give you everything you need to handle the enemy. We'll be giving you empathy, we gon' challenge you mentally. The right conversation so you grow exponentially. We built your penitentiaries, we built all the schools. Gave us brainwash education, just making us fools. Hatred was what we got in exchange for love. No more manipulation from our God up above. It's Carl, Kevin, and Tiffany. Now welcome to the Black Therapy Show. Let's go.
All right, y'all.